Hello, Story Seekers. I'm Ben.
I'm Nico, and welcome to the Tiny Bookcase. Right now, you're listening to our favourite part of the week.
Stories, discussion, and a high likelihood of gratuitous obscenities, all to sate the hunger of the bibliomancer Eusterus.
Regular listeners will know how it works, but for newcomers, Ben and I have both written a story to the same prompt.
We're about to share those stories with each other and you for the first time. Then we'll workshop them on mic. The prompt for this episode is ranch. So, Nico, take me to Yellowstone, please.
What the fuck are you doing? I'm eating. Yeah, I can fucking see that. We're in the middle of a job. Yeah, and I got hungry in the middle of a job. And what? You thought, let me bring the loudest snack I can. Bloody hell, Jacob, it's only crisps. Oh, it's only crisps, is it, Tyrese? Only the crunchiest, loudest packaging you could possibly bring with you. I never bought 'em with me. What? I never bought 'em. I got 'em out his cupboard. Fuck me, Tyrese. You're robbing the poor bastard. Jacob, you've just shot him in the face. I don't think he's going to be worried about a bag of Doritos. It's the principle. Well, there ain't no principles in it. He's dead. I'm fucking hungry. Have you took your gloves off, Tyrese? Of course I fucking have. Why? And I'm asking you this as politely as possible. Have you taken off your gloves, you stupid arsehole? Well, there's no need for that, Jacob. You've taken off your fucking gloves, Tyrese. Well, you show me how you'd eat a bag of crisps with leather gloves on. I fucking wouldn't. Exactly. No, you dozy prick. I wouldn't, 'cause we ain't Hansel and fucking Gretel. What's your plan? Nice trail of crumbs and a delicious fingerprint on the corpse for added measure? Nah, I'll suck all the powder off 'em. Fuck me. It's them cool original ones, the blue ones. I couldn't give a monkey's, Tyrese. I swear to God's swinging bollocks, when we get out of here, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking face. They got a different name in America. Fuck me. Cool Ranch. Where is this fucking lift? It's coming. Yeah, they're ranch flavoured, but we haven't got that here, so they just call them Cool Original. Tyrese, if I have to listen to you talking about fucking crisps for one more moment, I'm going to pull this door open and kick you down 14 floors. 13? What? It'd be 13 floors down. Look at this, see that? 1, yeah, following? 4, 14. Eat your crisp, prick. Yeah, that says 14, but it ain't really. What are you on about now? Well, there's no such thing as a 13th floor. What? Well, it don't exist. This was the word conceptual. Conceptual? Of course it's a 13th floor. Them crisps fucking laced with something. No, it don't matter. Look at the buttons when we get in. There won't be a 13. Oh, fuck me. I'm putting this dickhead down seeing as you're busy. These are the worst Doritos, I reckon. Oh, do you? Any other insightful comments on the crisp taste of a corpse? No, I reckon he'd agree with me. It's a multi-bag and these were the only ones left. There is, of course, the option he was saving his favourites for last, but I don't reckon that's likely. And why is that? Well, if he was the sort of geezer who could self-administer a multi-pack like that, we wouldn't have been sent round to shoot him. Fuck me, you're like a modern-day Sherlock Holmes, you. Yeah. I might go back and get something else. This lift's so slow. Do you want anything? I never even checked his fridge. Do not go back in that flat with dusty fingers and no fucking gloves on. I wasn't gonna. Here, have you got a wet wipe or anything? A fucking wet wipe, Tyrese. You are a wet wipe. What the fuck would I have a wet wipe on me? Case of a mess. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't predict your inability to not steal and immediately consume crisps. So you haven't got a wet wipe. No, I haven't got a fucking wet wipe. I might have a conceptual one for you. How about that? Don't see how that'd help. You're a fucking weapon, Tyrese. I don't want to put these gloves on with dirty fingers. I've sucked them, but it's not all coming off. Wipe them on your jacket. Or just put the gloves on over the dirty fingers. When that door opens, just get this arsehole under the knees and lift. That's all the instructions. Oh, this feels horrible. It's a bit like working with you then. You ever had ranch? No, I've never eaten fucking ranch. Jesus Christ, Tyrese. Neither have I. I just was wondering if they actually taste of ranch, because I've got no frame of reference. Then why does it matter? Well, it's just nice to know these things, isn't it? What are you, Dictionary Corner? All these facts and tidbits and fucking questions today. Here's one for you. Why did we kill this geezer? Because it was the job. Right. And what's he done? I don't know. Yeah, exactly. We killed a man and you didn't ask why, but you can't wrap your chunky noggin around whether or not the poor dead bastard's crisps taste like the sauce that they're not even named after. You're a unique sort of bellend, Tyrese. Was only asking. Oh, thank fuck. Get his knees. I'm getting out of this place. Yeah, alright. I've got him. And down. Oh, fuck me. Alright. Yeah? No 13.
Really, really flowed beautifully. Like the just the entirely dialogue, but still moving the story along. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was a really interesting thing to do because when I had the idea, I couldn't think of a way to tell it that had enough pace without it just being the conversation. So what I've accidentally done is written a script.
Yeah, you've written a scene from a Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah.
Which is a compliment. I like Guy Ritchie movies, but the strong Guy Ritchie vibe, like down to the Tyrese. I think there's a character in Snatch who like keeps doing stupid things, and they go like, "Oh, what the fuck, Tyrese!" Like it evokes.
I think you're right. I think that may be where my brain said, "Oh, what's this archetype called?" There we go.
Oh, it's called Tyrese. There you go. I really like that. I think we're probably going to get sued by Doritos if they ever deign to listen to us. But I thought it was really cool. I mean, you spoke about a couple of stories ago for me, like that something might like that might have worked better as a script, or you wanted to turn it into like a short film or something.
Yes,
I got a similar sort of vibe from this. Like I could conjure the kind of building that they were in, despite there being zero description. There's zero narration. Sorry, of description. It was just I could feel the room. And the characters were strongly evoked. They were well characterized, really well voiced as well. The reason I'm a bit freaked out is because this is actually the closest we've ever come to writing exactly the same story.
No way.
No, I'm actually like, this is. I'm like, sometimes we joke about it, but this is beyond eerie. There's like, yeah, it's
Right.
I don't even know what to say about your story because I feel like I'm already talking about my story. Like it's
If that's the case, here's what I'm going to say. We're going to go straight to yours. We're going to cut this feedback really short. I think you should read, and then we should just talk about both of them because it sounds like
Oh my
that's
God.
what's going to happen anyway.
It's actually shaken me. I'm just sort of, my head is in my hands. Oh my God. Right. Okay.
If you've got a character called Tyrese, I'm hanging up.
I don't have a character called Tyrese. But I think you'll see what I mean almost immediately. Like this is, yeah. Yeah, you've flustered me. All right. Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ranch. Howard hadn't said a word afterwards, like he'd never had a job go bad before. Roger couldn't believe the fragility of the big man. Wasn't he the one with the rep? It seemed a little rich for a man he admired to go into shock over a little Yankee claret. A small Bluetooth speaker on the diner counter trumpeted Latin beats too quietly for him to make out the melody, and too loudly for him to ignore. Roger rubbed at his ears, suspecting they were still wrung from their busy night. He inspected Howard whilst pretending to read the laminated menu. The huge man was slumped in their booth, staring at his water glass. Roger followed his gaze and saw there was a small fruit fly struggling against the surface tension. He wondered how long it would take to drown. You okay, hon? Startled, Roger looked up to see the waitress pointing her much chewed upon pen down at his leg. It was bouncing uncontrollably. Absolutely, I just have terrible rhythm. He nodded at the speaker and pushed down on his leg to stop the jitters. Richie likes it. He's the chef. She spoke quietly, like she was in church. Shouldn't it be in the kitchen with him then? He smiled, just like his mother had taught him to when being firm. The waitress shrugged. It's charging, hon, and the only good socket's under the register. What will it be? I'll have the wings, no sides. Barbecue or ranch dressing? Ranch. And your friend? He'll have the same, thank you. Roger read the name pinned to her chest. Madeline. He leant back and smiled at her as she hustled to put their order in. The diner was nearly empty. An old man with a 10-gallon hat on the table next to him, and a couple at the breakfast bar who looked like they needed a shower were the only other punters. A squad car rode a cloud of dust into the parking lot just as he was relaxing. Why wouldn't there be cops? It doesn't matter, thought Roger. We're clear. Madeline greeted them and sat them directly in his eyeline across the diner. His skin prickled as he imagined their curious eyes, their holstered guns, and the squawk of their radios. Roger had become an expert at cultivating hatred. He could do it in an instant, and an instant was all you needed to pull a trigger. You had to, he thought, when you were trying to match up to the big man. Roger felt all of the reasons he could conjure to hate everyone in the diner well up inside him, waiting to be used. Madeline didn't get a smile from him when she eventually brought the food. Instead, he nodded and pulled the plate towards himself. It looked dry, but for the white sauce drizzled over it. To his surprise, Howard reached out and started sucking crispy chicken meat from the bones. What's this? Howard rumbled, pointing at the sauce dribbled over them. It's a yank dip. Ranch. I like it. You don't say a word for hours. Let me drag you about like you're fucking Rain Man, and the first thing you say is about food? What the fuck is the matter with you? I've never had to reload before, said Howard quietly, between slurping bites. What? Didn't seem right, like I'd broken a rule. Are you joking? No. Right, well, are you done moping at least? No, but a man's got to eat. Well, enjoy. I'm going for a slash. Roger slid out of the booth and loped towards the restroom, trying not to consider what the cops might be thinking as he walked past them. You got sauce on you there, big fella, one said. Roger stopped and looked at his hand. Red speckles, half-dried, decorated the edges of his right. So I do. Roger grinned manically and licked the spots away. Smoky. The cops chuckled. You Brits like your barbecue then? Yeah, and I was on my way to the bogs to tell everyone in there about it too. Roger cut their small talk short. He could tell he defended the oath with the badge, but better that than the alternatives. The stalls in the restroom were empty, and the smell of overproof cleaning solution rose from the tiles to scorch his nostrils. Not a good bit of banter on any of the walls either, thought Roger as he stared into the blank space urinals. He cleaned his hands, wondering how the blood had got on him when he'd been wearing gloves most of the time the previous night. The cold water felt good as he splashed his face and rubbed the Texas heat away from his neck. He crinkled his nose and shook his head, having imagined that he'd heard a gunshot. Just an aftershock of his ears, Roger thought. Then there was a second shot, accompanied by the crash of breaking glass. He listened to the silence left by the gun and jumped when a third sounded. Roger pulled his pistol out from his jeans, where it had been hiding underneath his plaid overshirt. Carefully, he drew open the door. The cops were gone. One was supine over a table dripping with spilled coffee. The other had made a run for his car before tumbling short with a bullet in his back. Dry wind gusted through the broken window Howard had shot out. Roger stalked further in, bringing his gun up to sweep across the cowering couple. Madeline was hiding behind the register. The old man had tried to draw on Howard. It looked like he'd barely cleared his holster before the big man had put two in his chest. These Texans are like jerky, thought Roger. The older they get, the tougher they become. He scooped up the Bluetooth speaker and ripped it clear of the wire before pitching it through the service hatch of the kitchen. He heard the clatter as it was smashed into silence. Then he shouted after it, "Richie, mate, get out here, would you, fella?" A portly, grease-stained man came out with his hands up. "Good lad. Now, the four of you, go and sit in that booth over there, where I can keep an eye on you, and I'll see what all this trouble's about." Roger smiled magnanimously at his sheep as they scrambled to do as he told them to. Howard was still holding his gun, but had sat back down to finish eating. "Quite a fuss. What happened?" Roger sat down opposite him, keeping his gun trained on the remaining witnesses. "The cop made you when Madeline said we'd ordered ranch, not barbecue." "Fucking ranch?" "I think I'm done." Howard pushed his empty plate away. "You sure? You can have mine if you want." Howard responded by tucking his gun under his chin. Shock he didn't know he had the capacity for made Roger feel like his spine had frozen. "Don't look away." "Seems funny, but I don't want to be alone." "I won't, mate. I wouldn't." "You're a good bloke." Howard smiled. When it was done, firing 4 more bullets and rigging the stove gave Roger the time he needed to dash for the border. The cartels always paid well, but that had proved too much, even for the big man. Howard had been, the best, thought Roger. Cold as winter in Scotland, that one. Afghanistan, Haiti, Juarez, the lot. And after all that, to eat his own gun? He resolved to find a beach with a name he couldn't pronounce, there to drink rum and smoke dope until it made sense to him. It never did.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That's fucking
They
weird,
were
isn't it?
very similar.
English double act who have just murdered people talking about ranch, and there's like stuff on their hands. There's a thing about the gloves.
Yeah.
What?
It's very clear. We both looked at that prompt and went, "I'm not writing about a fucking farm."
Man, the intro is going to make zero sense to this one.
The just out of interest, because I can't even begin to talk about how we got to where we did. I have got nice things I want to say about your story, but did you have any other ranch-based ideas other than the sauce/flavor when you were going in, or did that come straight to you?
No, that went straight in. I was just like, oh, okay, that scene is. I saw a way to turn that into a story, and this idea of them. I don't know. I really like. I tell you what, where it sort of came from for me. Like, I really like those kind of like diner sequences in violent movies. So I like Pulp Fiction, Tarantino. I like Taylor Sheridan stuff, like all the stuff in like like the Texas Heat. I like Natural Born Killers. Like this was like in particular, like some of my first like loves of violent movies all have this kind of like these almost like partially deserted diners in them, or full diners. You sort of know where I'm going with that, but yeah.
What's even weirder is that when I read mine to my lovely wife, Kath, she said it reminded her of the scene in Pulp Fiction where they're too early to perform the hit.
Yeah.
That whole, ain't the same ballpark, hell, it ain't even the same sport, that whole sequence.
Yes, very much so.
And, so essentially we've written 2 different bits of Pulp Fiction, both about ranch dressing. And I also was like immediately like, this is the scene. How do I turn it into a story? And then, in my case, left is a scene. But the only other thing at one point I thought, I really like this idea, but if I can't get it to work, what's my backup? It was trying to write a horror story set at Skywalker Ranch. That was the only other thing I had, and that would have been an even more potentially litigious situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really, really well written. Your one, the the perspective. It felt like almost like is second person the right term, where it was felt like both first and third. Like his opinion was so well realized that it was like being in his head, but the world was well realized enough. It was like being narrated in. I don't really
Mm.
know the right
It's
words for it, but
that's called third person limited.
third person limited. Okay.
Yeah, so it's sort of like where yeah, where it is there is a narrator. It is being told in third person, but you're getting such a it's like really tight to one character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I liked it, and you did it well.
thank you. Yeah,
The
I've been editing my book all week, and
yes.
that's written in a it's not written in the same way as this, but it is written in third person limited.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I think I was, when you've been working on one thing and it's just your eyes are bleeding from like how often you've read the same fucking line, and
Yeah.
like you thought you'd fixed it and it still doesn't read right, and then you realize that you actually had it a few different tries ago. Like it's just nightmarish. Your whole personality gets ablated. It's fucking horrible. Don't do it. The um
You know, back in the 70s, they used to take a load of acid to get the ego death, Ben. That sounds like
no,
you've
just
gone
edit
the
your own
long
work.
way.
Just edit your own work. That'll do it. You can do it for free in your own home. Write something
Well,
one day, and then the next day edit that thing, and you will come out a different person. Um, so I was desperate to write something else, and
yeah.
so I went for something that I would have liked to read. I think like this is the kind of thing that I enjoy, and I think just on your thing about Skywalker Ranch, we could have also written on that. Have you heard of Skinwalker Ranch?
No.
It's an absolutely fucking batshit story about like how like aliens are potentially like abducting cows and then like slicing all of their skin off with like perfect precision and then putting like the corpses back. It's it's truly wild. There's like a place in America where this thing keeps happening where livestock are turning up dead in the morning with all of their skin perfectly removed. Um, and
Oh,
it's deeply weird. I recommend that you Google it because
okay. I
it's
will.
very very strange. Um, but like yeah, I don't know. It's as with any of these sort of like alien theories or anything like that, you've got to appreciate them for what they are, which is an art form. Like
Yes.
they're a form of expression. Um, anyway, that could have been quite interesting. That could have. I didn't even think like this went straight in that I didn't even think about taking a second look at anything
I
else.
mean, I'm really thinking about it. I'm trying to find, what are the touchstones that we've had recently that could. The only one I'm hitting really for why we both wanted to write British gangsters, I think it definitely came to me, is um, Tangerine and Lemon from
Yeah, yeah.
Bullet Train. They've been knocking around in my head for a while. I absolutely loved that character dynamic.
I was definitely trying to channel Tangerine in in my in the Roger character here.
Yeah.
Um, I think initially I was going to do like a northern, like a deep northern for the
Oh, this is
Howard
even
character.
weirder. I was gonna
Um,
have one of the two guys be Northern.
yeah, the only reason I didn't was because I was so fucking shaken from how similar our stories were that like it actually affected my performance. Like I was just like, I don't even understand what I've written anymore. Um,
No,
but
what you've written is later in the same movie.
yeah, I sort of had this idea of like them being like like X maybe like ex SAS or something. When you have all of
Yeah,
these like skills where they're just like they turn you into a murder animal and then they boot you out in your 30s. And it's like like how footballers reach the end of their career and they're like if they haven't done any kind of side hustle, they're sort
yeah.
of
It's
like
become a pundit or game over.
yeah, because they've been
Yeah,
buying Bugattis for 10 years, like whatever the fuck it is. I can imagine there's a similar sort of thing and you end up like being like, well, I have this incredible skill set that's really hard to achieve. I still have the physicality to do it. May as well keep that in check. So you can really see how like someone like that might end up working working jobs around the world for
Doing
people that
wet
have
work, yeah.
wet work jobs. So I sort of had this idea that Howard had like sort of been the blueprint for that, and then Roger had finally got to work with him, and it was like this guy's last job that he ended up turning the gun on himself in. Like
Yeah.
that was sort of where I was trying to get to with it. But yeah, as I said, like the I think it's impossible to focus on those bits of the story when I've read that story immediately after you've read your story, because the bits that are similar are too weird, too
The
similar.
I'm going to compliment a bit of characterization actually. There was for Roger, your younger character. It was when he smiled when he was being rude, like you talked to, because
Mm,
that's such a very sort of South or East London affectation.
yeah,
The well, why don't you fuck off then, love? With a
yeah,
big smile on your face.
yeah.
That's I immediately knew everything I needed to know about that character, and while that may just be because I from that area grew up there, it did. I just knew everything I had to know about him, and that's what you want, especially in short fiction, with a character to be able to give one little impression of this is the sort of person they are, and it sell them for the rest of the tale. So that was great.
Yeah, I'm just sort of thinking back now, and I often do try and do that for a character, like find something that, like for example, the waitress has the chewed on pen, which is potentially a bit trite or something, but it does tell you that she has this sort of vaguely bored disposition. Um,
It gives me
with all of it.
probably a smoker, but she's
Yeah,
working
yeah,
the night
yeah.
shift. She can't go out to have a cigarette break, and that's got her chewing. Or yeah, it's
But you have the old man with his tall hat that's on the thing next to him. You have the couple that need a shower, which likely means that they're on like a road trip and they're having the time of their lives.
yeah.
Um, but I didn't do anything for the cops, which potentially should have had more to it because he was a bit fixated on them. So maybe he should have maybe I should have tried to give each copper an identity in that time.
It's
Um,
it's kind of an interesting way to do it, like to have sort of his peripheral picking up details on other people, but cops are just cops. That does fit into his
true,
into your
true.
character's worldview.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't need to know anything about them. They're pigs. That's it. That's all I
Well,
need.
I was always taught that when you accidentally do something well, you should always take credit for it. So I will take credit for that one.
So good job, Ben. You
Yeah, that's right.
smashed
I'm
it.
so good at this. uh, it's definitely not accidental and an oversight. Um, yeah, I just can't unlink these two stories. I'm just thinking this idea of ranch. We have we sort of both picked up on the the sort of branded element of it. Like it's this consumer item. I think and we both mentioned Tarantino. Like as you said, your wife had mentioned that it sounded like the bit from that Tarantino movie. One of the
Yeah.
things, one of the hallmarks of Tarantino's writing style when he's writing movies is this like obsession with brands and things that are on tables, like the kind of cigarettes that people smoke,
Yeah.
the way that people like pour their milk into their coffee. This kind of like mundane everyday shit that you can get really worked up on. Or at least his characters can, and a lot of highly strung people can,
Yeah.
myself included. Um, so I think we both did that, potentially both having that like shared awareness of that kind of storytelling, and then hearing this thing that's like a consumer item. Do you sort of see where I'm going with this? Like
Yeah.
maybe that's where I think that's where it came from. I don't think it's necessarily anything that we've seen recently. I think this is just like it's a link to such a deep touchstone in both of our awareness of storytelling that
You're you're saying
sorry,
that gangster movies are ranch coded. That's what we're...
I'm saying it's like the people that are in these movies and in these stories and in these books that are these kinds of characters are people that don't have any other kind of life because they have
Yeah.
chosen to be on the wrong side of the law, on the wrong side of morality, etc., etc. So the way that they interact with the world where they see the world is different to everybody else. So things like Doritos or the kind of cigarettes you smoke or the coffee you drink becomes important to these
Nice.
characters. It's actually a way you can sort of show the reader that these people are different.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's really true. Like the obviously the infamous Royale with cheese
yeah, exactly.
conversation.
Yeah,
You know, he's been to one of the most beautiful places a whole continent away, and all he can talk about is how different the McDonald's is.
which is because he
It's
was in a safe house smoking grass the whole time because he had to
yeah,
go there because he'd committed a murder. Yeah, like that's exactly it. Like
yeah. I think
yeah,
that's a really really good observation, and it's nice to know that the sort of the media we have consumed over time does affect the way that you think about storytelling in that way, and it's certainly had a very similar effect on both of us because we
mm,
have completely inadvertently, like people might think we're just saying this, but there has been no conversation between either of us. What we do is we get the prompt, say, oh yeah, we'll go with. We normally get a random word generator to give us 2 words. We say, right, we'll go with that one. And we picked ranch, and then we didn't talk about it, and we've both just turned up with stories that
yeah.
are so sort of inextricable from each other.
I've legitimately never been
Fascinating.
as shaken as I have in this episode. We're on episode I think 178 or something like that of this podcast,
Yeah,
and we've come close a few times, and it's been really interesting every time it has happened. But like this one has had like a weird effect on me. Like
yeah,
uh, I, I I'm not saying I
yeah,
dislike it. I just and I definitely I hugely enjoyed yours as well. Like the flow of your dialogue was excellent, and I really enjoyed the the characterization that you got into it. I think you were talking about how my narration helped with the characterization.
yeah,
You got that just in people's voices. So I think that was very, very good. Um, and just like a very physical awareness of the scene as well, like holding him under the knees and things like that.
yeah,
Um, little
yeah. It's.
observations too. Yeah, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them.
Oh, I'm gonna say one thing though. I'm gonna get some ranch for us to have together when we're next together. I think
Yeah.
I think that's important. We have a ranch cleansing ritual. You know, we'll both like drink a load of it or whatever you're supposed to do with it, and then we'll slide around on the floor.
Did you like? I tell you what, I do have a question that's a bit different to normal. Like, I know we often talk about like what inspired this particular story and all the rest of it,
Yeah,
but like, when you get a prompt like ranch, do
yeah.
you go away and research all about the source?
I didn't.
So you just
I
like it just like
because
like
so
yeah,
for the specific reason that my characters didn't know about it.
yeah, okay,
So in some situations, I'd be like, yeah, if I wanted to write a story about someone making it, I'd go and I'd read about it, what's in it, where did it come from, what's the origin. But I thought it would be detrimental if I would, because I'd be too tempted to like look for gags in what's in it, and
hmm.
it was more fun for them just to both be like, no, I don't know anything about it. Why are we talking about it? I think that's more fun and
I
very
think so as
meta.
well. I know I've been doing been reading a lot of like Alan Moore's thoughts on storytelling recently,
Yeah,
and one of the things that he says that he reckons is quite important for storytelling is to know what you're talking about when you
yes,
describe something. So like if you're gonna write a police procedural, then you need to know how police stations actually function. Otherwise, you're gonna look like a dickhead, basically.
yeah, because if someone who
Um,
really knows it reads it, then they're
yeah,
going to go, well, that's not right. Yeah,
yeah, or like like I know we bashed Tom Clancy when we did Tom Clancy thing, but like all of his books are pretty well researched. Is my understanding. Like he knows how those things work.
yeah.
Um, uh, the same is true of like Bernard Cornwell. Like that man puts like a bibliography in the back of his historical fiction books to sort of show all the books that he read in order to synthesize that story that he's told. Um, but I really enjoyed the fact that you've said that because the characters didn't know, it was okay to not know.
Yeah,
I think that really worked. And
yeah. I think if you're gonna write like the stable master and he's doing these things with horses, and then you're like, oh, I think this is how horses work. Someone is gonna read that and go, that's so wildly inaccurate because the stable master should know. But if you want to write little Joey and it's his first time in there looking after a horse, he can do it wrong. But in that instance, you also need to know what's correct so that he can do it wrong. So I think it is a very, very niche situation
But
where
yeah,
the characters can't know.
so when I said Cornwall has like synthesized a whole story based on like a bibliography that he puts in the bag.
Yeah.
You synthesize that story from having eaten crisps once. Like
Yeah.
that's 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 really fun, and I think you injected that into that story really well. And there's just I think where I'm sort of going with this is that your writing voice has become so comfortable that you can just swing for something like that and just have fun with it and make
Yeah.
it dialogue only and just turn it into just a scene if you want it to be just a scene. Like I'm enjoying this groove of feeling comfortable with what we're doing and but
Yeah.
still like trying to push and make things a bit different for ourselves and stuff. Like it's yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
I think it's especially interesting to sort of look at it in terms of where we are in our individual writing journeys, where you are refining your voice in a way that you're editing your novel and you're really taking the skills that you've got and turning them absolutely razor sharp. Whereas I'm still, while my voice has been tightened quite a lot, working out what mediums I like using it in the most, whether
Yeah,
that's long form
yeah,
poetry or stories or script. I still don't 100% know. So it's really fun to be able to have one of us experimenting while the other one refines the research they've already done. It's really cool to do it sort of
yeah,
in parallel.
yeah. I like it. I think it's I think it's a lot of fun. Gosh, this book thing. I know I poked fun at it earlier, but it's quite difficult sometimes. Like you have days where you just like where you're flying, and then other days where you just like I think I need to throw this entire thing away. Um,
Please don't.
I know, but like obviously that you sort of don't do that. But
Yeah,
having written so many stories for this bookcase and what have you, I didn't know how like, and even I've done a lot of editing of my like own short stories, and I've edited bits of a book before and all the rest of it. But like this kind of like holistic, trying to make it the best that it can possibly be, and get it ready to like start sending it to people,
yeah,
puts this lens on it that is like it's something else. It's really really tough, and you learn things by doing that are more about stuff like resilience than stuff like sentence structure. Um, so I think it's a good thing to do. I would recommend it to people, but also you've got to remember to be really kind to yourself because otherwise it has the potential to really fuck you up. So
yeah.
hopefully, if anybody's out there refining their work and working on their work in progress, they will hear that and know it's all going to be okay. But yeah,
I mean,
I
in
just
that
want to
same
put
way,
that
if
in.
anyone, yeah, if anyone else is out there going, I wonder if I can write scripts and then just trying, I'm here for you.
I'd love it if you started writing scripts. I think it'd be great. I think you'd. I know we've written a couple for the bookcase before, but
Yeah.
I think it'd be banging, absolutely banging.
Right, come on, let's get some ideas on the go then.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Tiny Bookcase.
Remember to subscribe, otherwise you're going to miss out on the future fun.
Also, tell a friend. If you like this episode, link them to it.
We'd be tremendously grateful. You can follow us on Twitter at BookcaseTiny, Facebook at The Tiny Bookcase, and Instagram at BookcaseTiny for updates. Speaking of supporting the podcast, well, magic can only take one so far. The Tiny Bookcase is supported by the generosity of its patrons. Those kind souls have really kept my belly full the last year. Let's cast a spell for them, shall we? For rich ginger tones on their scalp, let us cast the Orangi Hedondo spell for Scott Byrne. And for general fabulousness, why not the Ooh La La How's Your Mother spell on Matthew McLaren?
How do you come up with that shit, man?